Hi sewing friends, welcome to my sewing room. My name is Beth, and if you're new here, welcome. If you have visited here before or recently, you may remember that I've been working with denim and selvages, things that you don't really think of using in the sewing room all the time, leftover things, old jeans. And it's sort of a mashup of two recent videos. I couldn't get this idea out of my mind. So here I am making pot holders, not just with denim and fabric, but I added the selvages to these pot holders with the denim. So there's two pieces of denim. There's the selvages that I have plenty of those. So I'm going to show you how I made this simple pot holder just using leftover items that I have at my house, trying to use things up. Let's get started. The first thing I did to make my pot holder is I took 2 squares of denim. My squares are 9 inches by 9 inches. That to me is the perfect size, but your denim scraps may be a little different, and I think you should just go with what you have. Then I pulled out my selvages, and I'm going to take one of these squares and add selvages to just one. I did not mark the center area that will be showing or where I'm going to place my selvage. You could definitely do that with a chalk line. So I'm leaving an area in the center of my square where you will see the denim, and the two outside corners I'm going to be covering with the selvages. And as you can see, once I get my first selvage down, all I need to do is now work out from that first one to the outside. And as I go, I'll be covering up the raw edges with the finished edge of the selvage. So once I did one side, I went to the other side and I did the same thing. Super easy and super quick. After getting both sides of my square covered with selvages, I turned my square over and I trimmed all the way around. This is an optional step, but it held my 2 layers together. I just added 1 seam along both sides of my salvage areas. So I put a seam there on that first salvage that I had added on that side, and then I added a seam on the other side. You could also pin these 2 layers together. We're going to add the binding next. And I noticed here that this little piece of salvage did not get attached. I don't know what happened, but thankfully I caught it before I was done. Now I'm going to add a long piece of salvage to my pot holder, and this one happens to have part of my name, which was kind of fun. So I'm going to turn it over, and my salvage that I'm adding for the binding needs to be 1.5 inches to get it all the way around that raw edge. And I'll start in the center of one of the sides, and what I'll do, really easy way to put this on, is to just fold that raw edge over into a triangle and begin sewing right there all the way around. When I get to the first corner, I'm going to stop before the end, about 1/4 inch, pivot my pot holder and sew off the corner, and there's that little diagonal seam. Next, I fold the binding up right on that seam, and then I fold it down and start sewing, and I'll do that all the way around. When I got to the end, I want the last piece of my binding to cover over that triangle that I folded at the beginning with a little bit excess, and when I turn it right side out, all the raw edges will be inside. After turning my binding, my salvage binding to the right side, I'm going to top stitch all the way around. This is such a pretty pot holder. I'm excited to make some more. And the next one I make, I'm going to show just a couple different things that you can do to switch it up a little bit. And on this pot holder that I'm making, I just changed the direction of my salvages just to give it a little different look. And the other change I made is while I was adding those salvages, I had both my layers of denim together. So all of those seams I can see on the back of my pot holder. Now I'm going to add a little loop to this pot holder. I'll take a salvage, fold it in thirds, get the raw edge inside. I will stitch along that, the middle of that little hoop that we're making, and I'm going to add it before I add my binding to this pot holder. I decided to add my loop in the corner, but of course you could add yours anywhere you like along the back of the pot holder before adding the binding. And as you can see, that loop is waiting right there. When I get over there, my binding will just lay over the top of that loop, and then after sewing it inside the binding, I will trim it before turning the binding right side out. And just like in the potholder before, I added the binding to the back, I rolled it over to the front, top stitched all the way around, and it's all ready to go. This is such a fun project. Thank you for joining me in this mashup of a few of my most recent videos on just practical things to make around the house. It's fun to sew, and it's fun to sew with you. I'll see you next time.